Redstone was added to Minecraft in 2009. It's kind of weird to think that it's almost as old as Minecraft itself. Redstone started out looking like this, but nowadays it looks more like this. It's evolved so much over the years, with new discoveries and blocks and people improving their skills. But for a while now, Redstone innovation seems to have been slowing down. But why? Did Redstone get harder? Nope, it's the easiest it's ever been. We have so much cool stuff to work with now. So are Redstoners just washed up then? Nope. Redstoners are the most skilled they've ever been. We have more than 10 years of collective redstone knowledge behind us. And on top of that, the redstone community is the biggest it's ever been, and there's so much information publicly available. Wait, so it sounds like this is the best time to be a redstoner. Why would progress be slowing down? Well, it's the same thing that happens to any kind of skill over time. Redstone has matured. We've discovered almost everything there is to discover, and we figured out basically all the optimal designs for things. This kind of thing happens in real life as well, a good example being phones and computers. When they're first invented, progress is slow because we're not very good at making them yet. Then, very suddenly, it goes through an explosion of growth where the technology rapidly gets smaller and faster and more features are added. But eventually, things slow down again until we reach a point where progress is no faster than when we started, which is what we see with phones and computers today. Most phones are basically the same because we figured out the form factor everybody likes. They've reached a final shape, and that's basically where Redstone's at right now. Just like phones, many Redstone contraptions have more or less reached their final form, so there isn't much innovating left to do. But how bad is it really? Are we actually running out of Redstone? Well, when you really boil it down, Redstone innovation has always been about three things: making things faster, like obtaining lots of items very quickly, making it smaller, so the Redstone can fit inside your base, or finding new things to do with Redstone, and being the first person to ever make it. And that's it. These are the only things that people have really focused on. We're just chasing numbers because they're easy and convenient for us to measure. We simply can't measure other factors in the same way. For example, you can't put a number on how easy something is to build because it's subjective. Everyone's going to disagree. So we need to find a fourth thing if we want to carry on innovating. That being said, this problem mostly affects piston doors. They're becoming either as fast as they can possibly be or as small as they can possibly be. We're reaching the limits of these three standards. They've gotten so small that Redstoners have gone to extreme ends to continue shrinking them further. And by extreme ends, I mean cramming them full of entities. They'll use minecarts, mobs, and even frozen wither skulls. And while these doors are technically possible to build in survival, they go way beyond any practical purpose. You'd have to be clinically insane to even try building it. And at the end of the day, you'd be building a door that takes at least 10 minutes to open. But that's not the point of these doors. They're not meant to be practical or built in survival. They are proofs of concept that are made to show what's possible. So what if you do want to have something like this in survival? Well, that's where the fourth thing in the list comes in. Instead of speed and size, we could focus on cutting down the number of different materials used, making the wiring easy to build in survival, and giving the door a nice animation. This is decorative redstone, and it's been my focus for quite a long time now. Not many people actually try making doors this way, so there's plenty of room for innovation. It's just nice redstone that has a bit of everything. But of course, there's way more to redstone than just piston doors. One area of redstone where speed really does matter is in farms. A farm that produces items faster saves you a lot of time compared to a slower one. But for some farms, there really isn't any innovation left. For example, if you want to design a sugar farm, there isn't much designing needed. All you need to do is decide where you'll put the water, so the speed is limited by how many dirt blocks you lose. Most people use this kind of water stream design, and for their specific needs, it's generally more than enough. But there are ways to get rid of some of the water, so we can cram more sugar into the same space. And this is the optimal way to do it. Each dirt block has exactly one block of water next to it, so zero space is wasted here. We physically and mathematically cannot improve this, at least for a horizontal sugar farm. Sugar farms are just very linear. These are really the only ways you do it. All of the innovation happens with how you harvest the sugar, with pistons, flying machines, or TNT. But that's just for crops. The situation with mob farms is a bit more interesting. You see, there's been a long-standing debate in the technical community surrounding EOL mob farms. These use a bug called light suppression to remove the light emitted by nether portals, and with the light level being 0, mobs can now spawn inside the portal, already touching the portal blocks. So as soon as they spawn, they instantly disappear through the portal. And since those mobs that just spawned are now gone, the game immediately spawns new ones to replace them, which again instantly go through the portal, and the cycle continues. Basically, this is the perfect farm. Not only does it perfectly maximize the spawn rate, but it works for different mob types, making all their farms basically the same. This is where the innovation stops. This is their final form. Portal spam. People don't really design new mob farms anymore because there's no need to. What's the point in going through all that effort to design a clever farm if mindlessly spamming nether portals will always be faster anyway? It's a one-size-fits-all solution, which makes them pretty controversial in the technical community. And even though light suppression is now patched in 1.20, portal spam farms are still possible for all of the same mobs. You just have to get them into the portal a different way. And it's also worth mentioning that some mobs never even needed the light to be removed in the first place, so their portal spam farms are completely unaffected by 1.20. However, 99.9% of players are never going to build an EOL mob farm, let alone know what it is. So innovation does still happen in making farms that are easy and simple to build for the average Minecraft player. Take slime farms, for example. For the longest time, everybody made slime farms the same way. You'd find your world seed, then Google Minecraft slime finder, paste the seed, and use it to locate a slime chunk close to you. Then you'd spend ages digging that out to turn it into a slime farm. It was very time consuming, but it was basically your only choice if you wanted lots of slime. The only other place where slime spawned was in swamps, but their spawn rates depended on moon cycles, so you had to wait for the right night, which wasn't ideal. And other mobs could spawn there too, which meant fewer slimes. Slime chunk farms were just better. But then, one very simple change completely turned this idea on its head. You see, mobs used to spawn at light level 7 or lower, but in 1.18, they can now only spawn at light level 0, when there's no light at all. But they didn't change this for the slimes that spawned in swamps. They could still spawn up to light level 7, so just by making the light level 1, you'd eliminate all other mobs. The only thing spawning would be slimes. Now all you needed was a block that mobs could spawn on and emitted light level 1, and you'd have yourself a cheap, fast, and relatively low effort slime farm without any digging. And as coincidence would have it, you could already find a block with these exact properties right in the same place as the slimes. Brown mushrooms. All of a sudden, people were making new slime farms left and right, all because of this perfect storm of emergent behavior. But remember, these are just examples, and the problem is way more diverse than just these three things. I'm greatly oversimplifying for the purpose of this video, but one area of Redstone that hasn't really hit its limits is flying machines. Slimestone can only use a small fraction of the redstone components in the game, and yet you can do ridiculously complicated things with it, because it's redstone that moves. You can make world eaters, ocean removers, bridge builders, floor placers, and so on. And there's a ton of high-tech slimestone made by the Chinese community that most people know nothing about because it's all on Bilibili, which is basically just Chinese YouTube. There's also a community of people who make slime block battle bots called SBRT. They make giant flying machines that are specifically built to destroy other flying machines. So it's not just down to redstone skill, there's a lot of strategy involved. And there's also decorative flying machines that try to recreate vehicles and other objects from real life. But Slimestone is more than just flying machines. You find it everywhere, indoors, in farms, elevators, and so on. So Slimestone has plenty of innovation left. We don't need to worry about that. And even if it did start stagnating, it could easily be kickstarted again, just by making dispensers, droppers, and other block entities movable. This would of course break lots of other redstone, so we would need some kind of toggle to make them movable or not movable, or alternatively, we'd need new blocks to fill the gap that the existing ones left. And speaking of adding new blocks, another limiting factor for redstone innovation is the redstone components themselves. Everything I've said up until this point is to do with the current version of Minecraft. Things could easily change in a future version if the right block was added, but that's also easier said than done. We already have so many good redstone components in the game, so it's very difficult for Mojang to keep making new ones that are both unique and impactful enough to shake up the redstone meta. Hoppers, slime blocks, and observers were probably the most groundbreaking redstone blocks we've ever had, but blocks like these are quite rare. The observer was the latest one we got, and that was way back in 2016. This is why I was so passionate about the sculk sensor, to the point where I made 3 videos on it, and even did a 4-hour live stream where I had King B-Dogs from Mojang as a guest. I really thought the sculk sensor could be the next game-changing thing for redstone. Now, I'm not saying that every new redstone block needs to be groundbreaking. Most of the time, redstoners are very happy to get a new block with quirky features. Sometimes it doesn't even need to be a redstone component. In the 1.20 snapshots, Mojang added a block called the Pitcher Pod, with a unique hitbox that protruded 1 pixel underneath, and there was a bug where you could remove the farmland below it, exposing flooding the bottom. This led to some pretty interesting concepts for wither cages, but unfortunately, floating pitcher pods weren't intended, so it was patched, despite the useful behavior. And sometimes we don't even need a new block. It can be pretty impactful when an existing block gets new features, like the jukebox. Blocks like these help to solve very small but significant redstone problems. But redstone is all about pushing boundaries, and when progress gets slower, sometimes a new block is just what people need to start doing that again. Now, am I saying there's no new redstone anymore? No, of course not. But redstone progress will never be as fast as it used to be, and that's okay. Most people aren't going to be trying to make the best, most optimized redstone. They just want something that works. It doesn't have to be the smallest or fastest. Simply designing something and getting it to work all by yourself is the most fun part of redstone, and it's very satisfying, even if it's already been done before. So even if we do run out of redstone, it's still entertaining, and at the very least, it would make for a good YouTube video.